Hello, blessed ones. I feel like we are in a series of things as we are talking about authority coming to the throne. We talked about authority and power coming into the power, and I feel like I want to close that. Since David actually arrived, he has arrived. He is on the throne of Israel according to the promise made years before. And I wanna conclude by talking about being established on the throne. How do you establish the throne? And one way to know it's established, of course, it's you are prepared, you are ready. The time appointed by the Father for the heir, for the child, is to be placed as adult son and rule. That's from inside out. But also there is what we see here with David is what the enemies are doing. One thing that Joshua actually couldn't conquer was the Jebusites. Jebus was not conquered. Pretty interesting, isn't it? So they were still there, the enemies, kind of in the midst of the country. The king and his men, it says 2 Samuel 5, went to Jerusalem against the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, who spoke to David, saying, "You shall not come in here. The blind and the lame will repel you." It's like, the weakest of us will destroy you, will repel you. They don't accept you. And they were thinking, David cannot come in here. I mean, they were so sure of themselves. There are some of these fortresses, strongholds in the soul of man and the soul of religion that they said, nobody can conquer this. This is, it's not going to work. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, which is the city of David. That Jebus was actually to become the most intimate, the most precious city of David. Now David said on the day, "Whoever climbs up by way of water shaft and defeats the Jebusites, he shall be chief and captain." David dwelt in the stronghold and called it City of David, and David built all around from the Millo and inward. So David went on and became great, and the Lord God of hosts was with him. So when the throne is established, the enemies find out quickly. If they still blabber and come against you, you cannot do it. It's to their destruction. But some others, as we see in verse 11, Hiram, the king of Tyre, sent messengers to David and cedar trees, carpenters, masons, and they built David a house. Wow. So David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel. How? And that he had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people Israel. How did he know? Because the enemy, the king of Tyre, that was always against Israel, he capitulated, he submitted, he actually sent gifts to David. It's like, no, I don't want to mess with you. There is something super powerful that surrounds you, that's about you, and I don't want to mess with that. So one way of knowing it's established is not just from inside, knowing yes, it's time, but also from outside, seeing the position, the reaction, the attitude of the enemies. So of course the forever enemies of Israel, the Philistines, they were defeated. They didn't want to do like the Tyre king did, so they came to fight, and they were absolutely obliterated, totally destroyed. You see that in chapter 5 from verse 17 to 25. And verse 18, the Philistines also went and deployed themselves in the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go up against the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hand? And the Lord said to David, go up, for I will doubtless deliver the Philistines into your hand. I love that. I guess the Lord really wanted to add. But see, this is established throne, right? This is established. The Lord said, doubtless, absolutely, for sure. This is assurance. The enemy will be in your hand. And he destroys them. Then Philistines come later, and in verse 23 it says, David inquired of the Lord, and he said, the Lord said, you shall not go up, circle around behind them and come upon them in front of the mulberry tree. And it shall be when you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the mulberry trees, then you shall advance quickly. For then the Lord will go out before you to strike the camp of Philistines. Wow, this is interesting. You hear the little sounds because the angels were going, the army of the Lord was going before David's army, taking care of the enemy. This is definitely an established throne. It's not really your battle, is the Lord's battle, and he deploys as many angels needed, as much army as needed, because his anointed is on the throne. And there will be no gameplay with that. So you see different ways in this establishing of the throne. And I picked 3 different definitions of things, and you might go through this in different areas of your soul or ministry. And there is a difference between fighting, conquering, and having dominion. Fighting is going to war and using weapons to destroy the enemy, but is not peace, is not rest, is not settled. The chances are enemies will come back and you keep fighting them, come back and keep fighting them. So you always have to be in the warrior mood, right? That's the fighting season. Conquering is not just going and fighting, defeating the enemy, but taking territory from the enemy, advancing, winning battles and advancing the territory. But conquering doesn't quite mean that you are settling down and you are getting established in those new territories. So you might be pushed back, and then you have to go again and conquer that. But it involves territories. Conquering involves territory. Not fighting is just battles, battles, battles. If I ask you if you're in a season of fighting, I ask you, what did you conquer? You probably won't know, because it's like, I don't know, those dreams keep coming back, and those sicknesses and those problems keep coming around the clock. And yeah, I think I killed this way, and then I have to fight to the right, and then to the left, and then ahead, and it keeps fighting. But conquering is taking territories, right? Now, having dominion is this overcoming, taking possession, but also settling and establishing the position. How do you know you are taking dominion over a territory? Is that the enemy is asking for peace. There is no show. There is peace and there is rest. You know that you know that you know. And the enemy is now wasting the time to attack you in that area, in that place. So fighting, they're all very, very important. And even if you have an established throne, there might still be areas where there's still fighting until you establish the conquering, establish the dominion in that place. Right? And the conquering, which is an advancing, and then having dominion. Dominion of life. This is what's happening with your life. I bless you. Yeah, King David, King Jesus. You're so blessed. Love you.